Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino. I'm here with Janet from the Valley. Janet,
I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have you. Now, we know each other a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's okay that I say this, but you used to be a celebrity assistant.
Yes.
And I mentioned this on the show briefly, but you were responsible for getting Cameron Diaz on Everything Iconic,
I
right?
did. I wasn't sure if you were going to give me a little tap hip or hat tip for that one. But yeah,
I just did like a Joe and Shorts thing. They're always doing like a top hat, fake top hat.
Yeah, I used to work for Ovulation, which is Cameron Diaz and Catherine Power's wine brand. Still the only wine I drink, and always have to give them a shout out. I can't stop selling it,
It's
know.
Good, though.
But yeah, I worked, and then when we actually met. I was looking. It was like 6 years ago when I was co-hosting Scheana's podcast, and you were the first guest that I co-hosted with.
Okay, wait, tell me if you remember this. Do you remember Erica sort of like yelling at me? She sort of yelled at me like after the taping of that. And I was like scared shitless because I think I had just started my podcast.
Yeah.
It was fairly new. And yeah, Erica was like, don't talk about my daughter, or said something like that.
Oh,
I don't remember if there was like a
mean.
finger waving, but she gave me the business.
That sounds
which I
about right.
appreciate. A mom should do that, I think,
love it.
for the daughter. But yeah, it made me a little scared. But yeah, that was the first time we met, and I liked you because you said you were from Ohio.
Yep.
Love in Ohio, gal.
Which
is also why I'm rooting for Allie on Vanderpump Rules.
Me too.
Like, I got to root for the Ohio gals.
Yeah. And then, so I had remembered you. I adored you the first time we met. And then when we were starting to do podcasts and stuff or we were looking at Ovulation to start plugging Cameron and Catherine into some podcast stuff, I was like, you guys should check out this one. And Catherine Power was like, I'm already a fan. I love him. And I think Cameron was like, well, if you love him and you're a fan, I'll do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So they were on, and it was awesome.
Okay. So you go from that to getting pregnant and then getting on this show, which the show is batshit crazy in the best of ways. Like, I'm
totally
loving it. But what has that shift been like?
Honestly, it was kind of crazy. It just kind of all happened. I kind of trust in the universe and like just kind of letting things happen. And I'm like, everything ends up kind of okay always. So it was, I had left Ovulation after a while. My role just kind of shifted there. It was on great terms, and I still love everybody over there. But I started with somebody new that I didn't love in the celebrity world, who I would, be sued up and down if I said their name.
You'll tell me later.
I'll tell you later. Okay. And it wasn't a good match. And I was like, really bummed, because you have to have a personality match. And you have to really like working for the person. I was like, I'm not going to do good at this job because I don't like you. And so I was like, I'm going to leave this job. And then right after I left the job, Scandoval happened. I was over like helping Ariana, with everything. Actually, just making sure she was eating was like my main goal then. And I conceived our child the night that's like everything broke with Scandoval.
Wait, were you guys just so horned up by everything
this
that you were
is the funny thing. Like, I was ovulating and I left. Let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
So I was at Ariana's. It was honestly like a funeral. Like, everybody was over there just making sure she was okay. It was right after everything kind of broke. And I made her French onion soup. And then I was like, I looked at my ovulation calendar. I was like, oh shit, I'm ovulating. I was like, I have to go have sex. I'm sorry. I can't stay any longer. And I left, and I got home to Jason, and I was like, we have to have sex. He was like, are you sure you want to? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to like miss the window this month. Like, let's just, let's get it over with. Let's do this.
Janet, that is so dark-sided.
It was honestly, it was like the saddest
you
sex
had a Scandoval,
ever.
baby. Now I'm like totally blown away by this.
Ariana's like, well, at least something good came out of that. I'm like, yeah. Sure. And I'm like, if I wouldn't have been over at her house all day and had sex in that exact window, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the exact baby I got. So I don't know. It was this whole strange, weird thing.
Well, what's weird about all of you guys, though, is that you are all close. Because like you said, I met you through Scheana, but then even you and Jason had come to like my last show here in LA right before Scandoval broke. You were with Ariana and Tom.
Yeah.
The four of you were there together.
Yep,
and I remember during the show, live show, asking you guys about Katie and Schwartz or something, because like that stuff was breaking.
Yeah. It was like when Raquel was supposedly, it was like rumors were spreading that they were doing whatever.
Yeah, it was like Schwartz and Raquel had these rumors, and I remember calling out to the audience, and you guys said like, "Oh, no." Tom and Ariana, I think, kind of like waved it off, and then like now come to find out he had been having that affair that whole time.
It's so weird. You know, there's a lot of moments I think back to when we were together with them, or with all three of them, with Raquel too. I forgot about the show that I was thinking that it was Logan and Ariana that was with us, but it was Tom and Ariana.
Yeah, I think it was the four of you guys.
Yeah, and that's another time I look back and I'm like, I cannot believe that they were doing that. Like
crazy.
And we were right. I don't know.
Okay, wait. How's Jason liking the show? Because I think we're all thirsting after Jason.
Oh my God!
Like I can speak for myself.
That.
Yeah, he's like very hot, and he seems like very nice on the show. And every time he's talking on the show, I'm like, oh, he's the sound of reason, voice of reason.
Yes, you know, it's funny. All of his friends who have known him for years and years and years are all like, you're exactly the same on the show as you are off. And like, I really like that because I really want, you know, we want to be authentic and be ourselves, but it's nerve-wracking a little bit having cameras around. And I was worried that Jason would get like kind of frozen or not really want to talk, but he really was himself. And I love hearing from friends that have known him for like 20 years and they're like, you're exactly the same on and off camera. He's super nice. He's the easiest, most wonderful husband. I keep seeing comments that are like, Janet doesn't deserve you. And I'm like, I know I don't deserve this man, but why would you marry someone that you didn't think, if I think I deserve you, why am I locking you down?
And what's it like though, dealing with people like that? Because this is new for you. Is it tough to see people who maybe don't like you or don't agree with what you're doing week to week? Yeah,
there's definitely, you know, it's hard feeling misunderstood because, you know, and I always thought anytime anybody says anything like, you only see a snippet, I'm like, oh, that's
bullshit.
BS. Like you're seeing the truth, but I'm like, oh no, I did say this really good piece in this thing and you have to really boil it down to, you know, what's important because there's so many of us and we're having so many conversations. You can't the show would be 6 hours if I was editing it. So it's hard, you know, when you feel misunderstood about something, like you said something and then maybe you took it back later, but they didn't see that part, or you explained it better in a different scenario. So
Has there been one thing so far that you're like, oh, I wish I could have clarified that, or I wish that was shown a little differently or something?
With the original Michelle rumor about racist, this and that, like, which I hate even saying like that word because I don't think that anybody on our show actually is racist. I don't think Michelle is racist. So I explained it, I think. When Michelle first called me and said, Kristen said that you think I'm a racist, I was like, what? And I had never thought that before. I'd never, you know, I was like, where did this come from? I'm like, that she just plucked this out of thin air. It took me actually a little while to realize that she took this conversation I had with Michelle months ago that had nothing to do with race and that's where she had gotten that from. So people were like, why didn't you take accountability when Michelle called you? And I'm like, because I didn't know that that's where this came from. I didn't know. This conversation we had a month ago about like a hot political topic had nothing to do with anything racist. So when
it was a weird game of telephone.
Yeah. And I was like, so I kind of wish I would have in the moment realized where Kristen had gotten that because I would have taken more accountability for it.
Okay. So this week on the show, we saw you say in terms of Kristen, like, I need to keep a distance from her. So I'm curious because you knew Kristen before filming the show. Do you feel like you got a different version of Kristen when the show started?
Yes and no. I mean, I think when cameras are up, you see kind of an exaggerated version of somebody. And there's times like, for years I've been friends with Kristen. When I've needed a break from her or she's needed a break from me, we've taken it. So it's different, I guess, now this summer when cameras were in our lives, you know, when I said like, I need a break. Like for me personally, I'm not saying our entire group should ice her out or, you know, not invite her, but I'm not inviting her.
Because I was going to yell at you about that.
Yeah.
I know, because I was mad about that. I think a lot of fans were like, okay, we can't, because the shows never really work when it's like, we can't film with someone.
Yeah.
So you weren't saying, I'm not going to film with her or anything.
No.
You just say, emotionally, I might need a little break.
If Brittany was having like a party or something, invited Kristen and I would have gone. But I'm not going to be inviting her over to my house right now because everything, you know, the past couple weeks, everything that happened was people screaming at each other. And the hallway scene. Like,
oh my God, it was such good TV.
It was great TV, but it was also like my blood pressure went up through the roof that night.
And you were pregnant.
I'm pregnant. Yeah. And I was like, whatever's going on out there, there's too much pushing, shoving, yelling. it's getting too close to something really bad happening.
Was Brittany shoved? I was a little confused about that.
I think when Jesse kind of like lunged, like, I saw exactly what you saw. I wasn't in the hallway when it happened. Jason tried to stand up and I yanked him down, was like, we're not jumping in this one. But I think Jesse kind of like lunged himself towards, I think his goal was Luke. And then I think Zach and Brittany got kind of like,
in the middle,
pummeled in the way.
What the fuck's going on with Jesse in general and specifically on the show? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Jesse told me when we were like right before this that he's very calculated and he thinks about everything he says before he says it. And looking back now, because, I only saw him in big group kind of settings when we were filming, I'm like, if you were planning everything you said or you were very thoughtful about all of your words, was your goal to be an asshole? Mm-hmm. I'm like, were you purposely being an asshole or do you not realize that you are an asshole?
So he probably is an asshole, but was also leaning into that for the show, right? Like maybe wanting to be a little villainous or something? I don't
think he meant to be. I think he just is and didn't know it yet, maybe. But I love Jesse in a way like where
how dare you?
He's not my husband. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
If he was my husband, I would have killed him by now. But like, he is charming and nice. And like, I will say, like, we had the Be the Match gala featured on the show. And Jesse posted a beautiful post for it, helped fundraise for it, donated a lot of money to it. So I'm like, he is charitable. I have to give him that.
Yeah, but you could be charitable and also be a demon, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
And maybe sometimes people are charitable so that they don't come across as, so they get a little bit better publicity. I don't know.
That's true.
But wait, so he's got did you meet the new girlfriend?
I did.
So
another charity event. So Jared is fundraising for the LLS right now, and he had a drag show to help raise money. And
Jared Lips, who we love, yes, co-host on a podcast.
Love it. Love him. And so, yeah, he came with his new girlfriend. I met her briefly and just kind of stuck to charity talk. I was like, I heard you used to be on the board for the LLS. Great, like,
I heard she tried to get on Orange County Housewives.
I just saw a meme of this, which is funny because, so there was a step and repeat kind of red carpet and a photographer at this event that I met her at. And, they're like, okay, you and Jason, just yourself, just Jason, you and Jesse and Jason. They kind of put you in different groups. And the photographer told her to kind of come over for a shot of the four of us. And she kind of hesitated and was like, I don't know. And Jesse was like, come on, we might as well. Kind of like, eventually people are going to know we're dating. Let's kind of go public, I think, as he was like, let's get it over with kind of thing. But she seemed hesitant. So when then I saw that she potentially interviewed or auditioned or whatever, I don't know, however the process is for Housewives, I was kind of surprised to see it because she did seem reluctant to kind of jump in a photo with Jesse.
See, I'm curious what'll happen because there'll be a next season, right? Like it seems like everybody's really loving the show. The ratings seem to be really good. So I'm hopeful that there'll be another season, but I'm like, they'll have to bring Jesse and Michelle back, but then also how does that work? And Michelle's dating someone new too. Have you met her boyfriend?
I have not met him, but Jason has known her boyfriend for like 6 years. When they were single, they used to go out together. I guess.
I trust Jason. What does he think of him?
He said he's a nice guy.
Okay.
And he saw him again recently. They actually all were together in the same space recently for their daughter's 4th birthday party. Okay. So they all got together and had cake and ice cream. Jason brought our baby over and there was just like kind of a small group, but they were all in the same room. And so he got to see Aaron is his name again for the first time in many years. And he was like, he's super nice.
No, it's not the same guy as that director that allegedly there was like this fling with. Right?
I think that was truly like, Michelle's a hustler. She wants to sell the $50 million houses. And I think she saw dollar signs, not hearts.
Are you able to say who the director was?
I don't think so.
Can you give me a hint?
It scares me. Look, I probably only know 3 directors and I know who he is.
So it was Spielberg. Okay. But have you ever heard Martin Scorsese's, I think, daughter watches a lot of Bravo?
Really?
I hope I'm not making that up. Maybe Lala said that Martin Scorsese. Somebody said like Martin Scorsese watches Bravo. So now in my head, I'm like, maybe it was Martin Scorsese.
Rihanna this week said that she watches The Valley and I can die now. Like,
that's crazy.
I'm fine dying now.
Okay. We got to talk about Jax and Brittany.
Yes.
Now they were just at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is a crazy fucking sentence to say. But what is going on with them?
They honestly seem to be getting along. I mean, they were just fighting like cats and dogs, like, to be honest. Like,
so in your perspective, it was just like a bunch of stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think it was, to be honest, for me, the first time I noticed Brittany not defending him and like it seemed like the veil had been lifted a little bit was when he went on TV and said she had a stroke when she didn't. And I called her
on an E! show, right? Just to clarify.
Yeah, on House of Villains.
Okay.
He after he was voted off, he went home, and I had taken Brittany to the hospital that day because she had been feeling numb and weak and was having some strange symptoms. And she was like, I'll just go to urgent care if you can watch Cruise. And I was like, no, we're going to go to the hospital. They ended up admitting her, and they ruled out a lot of this stuff immediately, like MS, stroke, but they were testing for like serious stuff. And so she was like, let's not tell Jax yet. He hadn't been voted off. So she was like, I don't want him to leave the show if it's not something serious. And so he ended up getting, I think, voted off like hours, into this thing. And so we told him, and then, months and months go by. We don't know that he had gone back. We knew he'd gone back to film like the finale night, but we didn't know that he had said this thing about her having a stroke. So all of a sudden it aired. It's around the holidays at this point. It airs. Brittany starts getting all these calls and texts being like, are you okay? One of which was from me. I was like, when I kind of left and Kristen and Jax came, I had been at the hospital for hours. They were there for the checkout process. And I was like, did I miss something? Did you have a stroke and like not tell me, or did I miss this? And she was like, no, I'm so fucking sick of him. I can't believe this. And I think for Brittany, she was like, people are praying for me and nothing's wrong with me physically, like I'm fine. My health is great. People shouldn't be wasting their prayers on me. And I think that really like stuck with her in a weird way. But that was the first time that I kind of heard her be like, fuck Jax. Yeah. And she was just like really upset with him.
Rotten heel. Of all the things, I mean, he's done so many things to her. It's like for that, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Of course, everybody has like their breaking point. Yeah. Everyone's going to snap eventually.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'll make it out of this together?
Here's what I was thinking about the other day. I've been divorced. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of stuff to do. So I don't think they're going to be getting back together anytime soon, but I don't know if they're going to be going to the courthouse and filing all the papers, because it's honestly, it's like a full-time job getting divorced.
And did she change her name officially, legally? Because I heard that's a nightmare, is changing your name.
Changing your name is a nightmare. I don't know if she legally did or not. Brittany's somebody she's been using, she's going to hate me for saying this, but she's been using her passport as her ID for like 2 years because her license expired and she just like didn't go do. I'm like, she's not going to file for divorce anytime soon. You know how much paperwork you have to fill out for that?
But
Way more than the DMV.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't know. We all just want justice for Brittany, I think.
Yeah.
Even though I understand, I've said this before, it's like I understand that we've seen her kind of make excuses for that man and make the bed, or what, I don't know that saying, make the bed you lay in or lie in, or whatever the fuck that is. Okay, Kristen and Luke, what do you make of their relationship from an outsider?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, okay, Luke is very different from anybody that Kristen's ever dated. Like you have these over-the-top personalities, Tom Sandoval, James Kennedy, even Alex, her boyfriend before, just big personalities, very talkative people, very outgoing and kind of the star of the show. And Luke lets Kristen be the star of the show. And he kind of takes a backseat role. And I'm like, if it's not working, then you're picking these same sort of personalities in the past, pick somebody new. So I am glad that he is different than everybody else she's ever dated. They seem happy. Our friendship hasn't been in the greatest place for a little while now. So, we haven't hung out with them recently, but they seem happy and, like a good match. I really liked, on this episode, seeing Luke kind of explain things to Kristen and kind of break it down, like why things were not going well for her, or like what you hear and what you say are different. And sometimes if you just change a single word, it really changed the meaning of things. And that I was like, yes, that's exactly like, I wish I could have said it nicer than just screaming crazy Kristen at her across a dinner table. Like that was, I was like, Luke, this is exactly the way you're supposed to speak to somebody when you have an issue with them, not maybe screaming at them from.
I want you and Kristen to work it out.
I think,
I love Kristen on TV.
Never say never. And like, I love Kristen. I want to see her do well. Like, I want to see her succeed. And taking a break is like the way that we, I think, get back to a good place. Like, I'm happy where it is right now. And, when I saw her for the first time at the premiere party, she and I had a nice moment where she asked to see pictures of my son. She cried. She was like, he's so beautiful. We had this really nice moment. And I was like, oh, I went home that night and I was like, oh, Kristen and I, maybe I'll call her and see if she wants to get lunch and catch up. And then I saw the next episode and I was like, fuck Kristen again.
Oh my God.
It just like happens where you're just like, ugh, like, I don't know. Reliving it now is a whole different thing that I'm not used to.
I have this theory that Kristen was maybe ready to move out of LA, and then the show came about because it almost feels like certain scenes, I think this week when they're talking about, Luke says he doesn't want to move to LA. He wants her to move to, I think, Colorado or wherever. It just feels as an audience member, she's saying, well, let's stick here for a little bit. Is that accurate, or am I kind of off base?
I could see them having a place in Colorado and a place here. And to be honest, I really see Kristen as being like a Colorado girly too. I think she's very LA in a lot of ways, but she is like very down to earth and like, I don't know. I feel like she has that like Colorado kind of mindset. Kristen's a little bit of a hippie. Like she loves Stevie Nicks and playing guitar. And like, I can just kind of see her being happy in Colorado, but I also don't see her giving up LA.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about Jasmine and Zach. So we have all these couples on the show, and then we have these two singles who are also around. Did you know them, or tell me a little bit about your relationship with them?
Jasmine was one of my first friends in LA, and then Zach, Jasmine, and I and Logan, Logan Cochran, Ariana's bestie. We all lived in the same apartment building in West Hollywood. That's so crazy. Logan and Zach and Jasmine all lived together. And then so did Lo, who's like Stassi's manager, assistant, friend. So the three of them lived together. Then Logan and Zach got into a huge fight. So then Logan was like, can I move in with you? So then we moved in together, but we were all in this apartment building. And also it was during COVID. So like none of us we would like have game nights just in our building, but like we wouldn't see anybody else. So we all got really, really close.
And what about now?
Now I'm still very close with Jasmine. Zach and I, like maybe you'll see kind of a downturn, and it's coming up, I think. Our friendship is not in the best place right now.
Okay, wait, what happened?
I don't want to get into too many details because I want people to see kind of how it plays out and not like, not without I don't want to jump in and say too much too soon.
Okay, let's say you have to go on vacation. Who would you rather vacation with, Kristen or Zach at this moment?
Probably Kristen, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, so you can't give me any other juice about that.
A lot happened, and I think it's not related to Kristen, I will say. Like, it's kind of all, Zach and Kristen are super, super close. So as my friendship with Kristen is kind of taking a pause, that kind of trickles into my friendship with Zach.
So would you say if you had a vacation with anyone on the cast, who would Zach be the one you would least want to vacation with out of everyone?
Probably right now.
Okay, so he gets in the mix a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing else. Okay, you're not going to tell me anything. Is that happening at the end of the season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll start soon and carry on, I think.
Okay.
We'll
there be a reunion?
I hope so. I really hope so.
There has to be, right?
I think that they've looked at it, but I don't know. I haven't heard. I don't have a flight to New York yet.
Well, I'm in the Valley. We'll host it here. Come on.
I would love for you to
just
host
do
a
it.
reunion.
Let's just do it here. Come on.
That would be a lot easier.
If we have to do it on the cheap.
Right.
If Andy is busy. Only if Andy's busy.
There you go.
Then we can step in and do it here.
I would love to do a reunion, though. I'm in if there is one. I'll say that. Because I feel like there's so much that has happened since wrapping, like just all summer, so much happened, and then so much has happened since. I really feel like we need to show what's happened and just clear everything up before we start filming another season, if we get another season, which I hope and think we will.
I bet for sure there'll be a reunion because it seems like there's some messy stuff, and I've heard rumblings and stuff of things that happen later in the season that I feel like we're going to need some answers for. It just keeps
getting crazier.
I thought you guys were going to be really tame.
I thought everyone was like, there's so many. I love the videos where people were like, we didn't ask for this. We don't want this. These people are boring.
Those promos were shit. I thought. I mean, no offense. We love Bravo, but
one, I was kind of surprised that they put the one that we shot on like Wisteria Lane, that like that one out first, because I'm like, this doesn't show very much about us. I hoped that they had put out. Then once I think the main trailer got in, everyone was like, oh, maybe this won't be boring.
Yeah, because I think I shouldn't say it was bad. It was a good promo thing, but I just thought. Since it's messy, it made it seem like there was nothing, and I think Jack's like, we got another shot at adulting or something like that, and it just felt like, this can be lame and boring. But
having
then
barbecues in people's driveways, like not talking about anything or being like, how's your kid doing? Like, it was not. Right.
But you guys are messy. Do you think I don't know, are you scared about a next season, a potential season 2?
Yes and no. I mean, this is the thing. Like, our showrunner and executive producer, Chaz Morgan, told me, I was like, what do you think makes for the best TV? But then also, like, for us. And he said, be yourself and be curious. And I may have taken that like too literally. As you see, I'm like, ooh, tell me what's going on in that situation, this situation, that. But I really do try to be as authentic as possible. And I feel like I have nothing to hide in that sense. Like there's nothing that I'm like, oh, about Jason and I's relationship or our family or anything. Like I can own anything I think that I've ever done or that I have. I'm worried about other people's stuff, you know, coming out or just people going through, like I'm worried about Jax and Brittany maybe a little bit next season filming and navigating a divorce, like knowing how challenging divorces can be, and not saying that they have filed or anything yet, but navigating this separation, I should say. But like, you know, all of that, it's tough. So I'm not necessarily so worried about us as I am making the right comments about other people.
There was something you said in the confessional. I think maybe one of the first episodes you said, I had the primary bedroom growing up from my parents. And I thought that's a good reality because it's like you're owning, yes, that is fucking crazy. Yeah. But you're saying, yeah, that's what happened.
The best part is my mom to this day, whenever that is brought up, she's like, it's not that you bullied me into, she goes, that bedroom was just quietest. I put you in it as a baby because it was the quietest. And I'm like, Mom, you shared a hallway bathroom with Ben, my brother. I'm like, Janet, there's no way you wanted, I'm like, I was a brat. You could say it. She's like, no, she doesn't want to admit that I bullied her into the master bedroom.
That's such an Ohio mom thing. Okay, so you're filming this season, you're pregnant. Was there concern about, I don't know how to phrase this question exactly, but all the kind of craziness we talked about that's going around, and we even seen that hallway fight where there was pushing and stuff, and these heated arguments, was there any concern during the filming about the pregnancy aspect of it? Yeah,
I definitely wanted to make sure that I was healthy. Like that was number one. And if that was always going to come first, like Jason and I, you know, agreed upon that. Like if I were to have started, you know, like feeling like I wasn't in good health or couldn't handle it, I would have bowed out. It wouldn't have been a question at all. Yeah. But part of it also was like creating boundaries. And for me, every time Kristen and I were in the same room, or Kristen, Michelle and I, it was fireworks. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take the matches out of this situation. And that's when I decided like I needed a break from Kristen. And like that I had to have my stress levels be at a normal level. And every time the three of us were in a room, it ended with screaming. And I was like, I can't do this I was like, we at least need a break. We need a breather, so that I'm like, clearly it's not working. If every single time it's screaming and fighting and all of this, we need like a week or two to like take a break.
Do you feel like the other cast members respected that and were protective of you in that way?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Jax and Brittany even were like, okay, we'll kind of see, like they would be the ones, Brittany especially, that would be the one that would try to keep the group together the most. She's like the most forgiving and peacemaker between everybody. I mean, she can tolerate Jax. She can, you know, she's like, you and Kristen are nothing. Like, this is fine. So, you know, she, I think, would have been the one to resist the most. I think in that instance, she was like, okay, Michelle has every right to want to take a break. Janet has a right to take a break. Let's just take a beat and see what happens.
Jax has said in interviews that you're like him.
Oh my God.
Do you think that you're like him?
I think he wants us to be similar.
Like in what, tell me.
I think, you know, Jax knows that I do like to gossip, but about the fun stuff. Like, I don't want to gossip about somebody's marriage that's like when there's a kid involved. Like that part, that was like not fun for me. And I know it looks like when I was talking to Jasmine, I was like, oh, can I ask Brittany? My asking Brittany was like, can I ask Brittany if she knows that Jax is in the middle of this? Because I knew she didn't know that Jax was spreading rumors and getting involved in this. You know, it's fun when it's like, oh, like, guess who these two single people who slept together this weekend? Like, that's the fun gossip that I like to talk about. That's like not harmful. And so I think Jax knows that we're similar in that way. I think he's willing to take it a level beyond that. And in this episode, he says like, as if Janet wouldn't do this. I'm like, but I didn't do it. I didn't participate in this. I went and reversed the flow of information, came straight to Jax, whose mouth I knew this stuff was coming out of. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you, and he's like, well, I guess, you know, I shouldn't. And, you know, he was like, Janet would have done this. I'm like, but I didn't this time. So
I do appreciate you all being a little messy though.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. You gotta, like, when people are like, oh, I don't like to gossip. I'm like, well, that's going to make really boring TV then.
Okay. Talk to me about the creation of the show. because I think, I don't know if you could speak to this. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for asking this, but like it seemed like there were a couple incarnations of this, or it had been trying to get off the ground for years. Can you talk to me? Were you involved in some of those early conversations, or when did it come to you?
Honestly, it was like 2 years ago, Jax started saying like, hey, they're going to make a show about our friend group in the Valley. And I had heard rumblings of this for a while. Like, I think, there was a season of Vanderpump that it kind of seemed like it was going to split and, maybe do a Vanderpump Valley sort of situation, and then maybe have some new people at SUR that are kind of younger and still working in the restaurant. So I kind of thought that that's where the direction was. And I didn't think I would be part of either of them. And then, a bunch of more time passed, and Jax kept saying like, yep, they're probably going to have cameras up soon. And we were like, and it literally became a thing. We're like, sure, Jan, like this is never happening. And then all of a sudden we got a call that was like, hey, will you, talk to producers, see if this feels like something you guys are comfortable with, and if it's something you want to move forward with. And we have dates that we're going to start having cameras in your lives. And again, it was like, I had just left this personal assistant job. I got pregnant, and I was like, well, instead of going back and looking for another job, which I really didn't want to do, I'm like, let's take a chance with this and see where it goes. And we said, we just said yes.
And Jax and nobody else on the cast is a producer on this show, right?
No, nobody. Jax's manager, Ryan, is a producer on the show. Ryan Revel, but Jax is not.
Okay, because I keep seeing, I felt like he kept saying he created the show.
I think the people.
But then I'm like, well, you would be a producer on it.
I think Alex Baskin would like a word with, yeah. I'm like, I think Jax did. We should give him credit for bringing. It is his friend group, and they are the hub of everybody. Like, it is an authentic friend group. He knows Danny and Jesse, and so Michelle and Nia were kind of brought in because of the guys. I was brought in, and Jason was kind of brought in because of me. But everybody has a connection to Jax and Brittany. They're kind of the hub of the group.
Okay.
So I'll give him credit for that.
But is there some sort of concern that maybe his manager is a producer on this show? And
I don't know. I don't think he also manages like half of, I don't know.
World,
yeah. Kristen too, a bunch of people.
Okay. Vanderpump Rules. Are you watching this season?
Yes. I have not seen today's
the current week
I have
episode.
not seen the most recent.
Okay, but so what are you making of all? Let's start with like the Ariana, Lala, Scheana of it all.
Makes me really sad,
and you're close with all three of them. Right? Okay.
Yeah, I just saw Ariana a couple days ago at Jared's charity event. I'm friends with Lala and Scheana, see them all the time. It makes me really sad. I really want them to all get along. I was really hoping Vanderpump Rules this season would be like all the girls coming together, and like I would get like my Spice Girls reunion moment with all of them. Like, I really wanted to see them be like, all these guys are horrible. Let's just like rise above and be like hot girl summer. And then when they started kind of getting into it or supposedly getting into it, like I think we're going to see more later, or these rumors of the reunion being crazy. It makes me sad. I want everybody to come back together, but I think that that's kind of also like what happens in this group is people blow up and get mad at each other, and then it's like never say never with anybody. Like, I don't think this is the end of all of these friendships.
Right. I know that's the hard thing, because even with Scheana, I don't know what Scheana and Ariana are like in real time, but I thought maybe they're okay in real time.
I think so. I mean, Scheana went to Ariana's final show in New York for Chicago, so I don't think that they're like not speaking. Like,
but her and Lala aren't probably speaking.
I get the impression that Lala and Ariana's friendship is worse shape than Scheana's.
Now, going through your experience on the Valley, do you feel like, now looking back at this season of Vanderpump Rules, should Lala and Scheana have gone that route of?
I think it's hard. I know that they have their reasons for, like, they were like, Scheana, I understand a little bit more because she had this long history with Tom Sandoval, and I understand like even though you're so mad at somebody, like wanting to find forgiveness, and Scheana bottles things in, and she has really bad anxiety, so she will like cry about stuff like this. It will affect her. She doesn't just brush it off and think like, oh, it's okay that I like have horrible blood with this person. It really gets to her. So I understand her needing to heal or find a place of like forgiveness and healing with Tom. Lala, I think it was just, she was like, we can't be, not around each other. Like, we all have to be in the same room. And I think she really wanted to kind of get everybody together and talk and kind of get it over with, instead of just kind of letting it happen maybe the way it was meant to.
Or natural.
Yeah.
What about your relationship with Tom Sandoval? Do you have any relationship with him? Or are you?
No, not anymore. So Jason and I mean, I think what he did is really, really horrible. Like, especially like you said earlier, like being around them so much, and it just, and I don't get the sense that he's as sorry as he needs to be. Like the fact that he's still fighting Ariana on this house, and just, there's a lot of stuff that's just like, be sorry, be a good person, care about karma. We did run into him he came to our premiere party or one of our watch parties at Jax's bar.
Isn't he always doing karaoke
always
there?
Karaokeing there. I knew I was going to run into him eventually.
I'm scared to go to that bar. I'm scared because
I've only been a couple times, but this time I came in and I was like, oh, I'm going to have a drink. I went to the back bar where I was cornered. I put myself in a corner, and Tom Sandoval came up and he was like, hey.
Oh, yeah, man. Hey.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, no. I was dreading this moment. And, I wanted to have my Charlotte York moment and curse the day he was born, and I was just kind of stared, and I kind of froze for a second. And he was like, hey, how's the Valley? How you liking it? You excited? And I just took a breath for a second, and I looked at him. I go, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I go, yeah, I mean, Brittany could fuck Jason for 7 months behind my back, and I could find out about it on national television. And he was like, oh. And he like realized that I was insulting him a little bit. I have this conspiracy theory that, because Tom Sandoval was a very kind, awesome friend for many years. He was like
that with me too.
Yeah. And I think right around the time that Tom was opening, I think Tom Sandoval was abducted by aliens and replaced in his body, and he's been driven by aliens ever since.
Oh my God. Are you friends? You're friendly with Schwartz, I suppose.
Schwartz, I see, and yeah. I mean, I don't like what he did, but
you're like, he's a dummy, whatever.
Yeah, I have like a soft spot for him.
He gets away with everything.
He's so nice.
Everybody's got a fucking soft spot for that man.
It's unbelievable. He was like one of the only ones, of people that, like, of the guys, I guess, that texted me after Watch What Happens Live and told me congrats and stuff. Like,
well, he still could be an asshole.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. Everyone feels that way. I feel like everybody feels that way about Schwartz because he's just kind of got that puppy dog and he gets to get away with everything. And then there's always someone more villainous than him. Yep. So he never looks as villainous as Tom Sandoval or Jax Taylor or whoever is coming on this show next to be villainous. Ugh. Okay.
It's true. It's true.
Anything else about Shishi? You guys are close now. Did you guys have like a falling out or something?
Scheana and I had a falling out in like 2020. It was like really stupid at the time, but we got pissy with each other and had a few words over text message. And instead of just being like, oh, I'll see you in like a week and we'll forget about this, like taking a break from friendships for a period of time to cool down and then coming back and having everything be fine. The world shut down. It was like in March of 2020. So it was like all of a sudden then nobody was seeing each other. Both of us were being really stubborn. So we went like almost a year without speaking. And then we saw each other at Ariana's birthday party and like immediately like crashed into each other and started bawling and hugging. And we were like, it was, we were like, this was a really stupid argument in time. Like we shouldn't have taken time. I really regret that time because it was when Scheana was pregnant and I missed once I found out she was a mom, I had reached out to her too, but I missed a really important time of life, and our friendship, I think, will be there forever. Scheana's like family to me now. So I think back to that time and I get really sad that I missed it.
I feel like I always get defensive of Shishi on this show too. And people yell at me all the time. They're like, how dare you, Danny? People get mad about it. But I always feel like with Scheana, even when she's led astray and does something crazy that I don't agree with watching as a viewer, I just never feel like she's got a malicious heart. No. Like I always just feel like she might be being stupid in the moment or doing something dumb or horrible or whatever. But I don't ever feel like it's coming from that evil place.
No, Scheana has a huge heart. She always means well. Every once in a while she has like kind of a diva moment where I'm like, oh, that is so Scheana, that she's like, oh, switch me sides. This is my good side. I'm like, well, what if that was my good side I wanted? It's just she has these things, but if you just kind of accept Scheana for who she is and love her for it, then you're golden.
Is there anyone from that cast that you would like to come over to the Valley? Now, I'm not someone who believes any of them will be coming over because they got a hit show. You guys got a hit show. Contracts would have to be completely started fresh. So I don't think that it would work that way, but is there anyone you would?
I would happily, anybody but the worm, really. Like, I would happily have everybody. I mean, Scheana and Lala just bought gorgeous houses, like right down the street from each other in the Valley. So it would be awesome to see kind of their home life a little bit more, or like, I don't know, just their life since moving to the Valley. I would say Ariana too, but I feel like she's booked and busy and, you know, all of that. But I would love to see everybody. I don't know if it'll happen or not. We'll see.
I like doing all these little sprinkling the crossovers.
Yeah.
And my sort of fantasy is that next season on both shows, you'll all maybe take like a vacation together.
I would love that.
And then I would love to see sort of like on one show you get, you know, seeing the side from the Vanderpump people, on the other show you see the Valley people, kind of like how they've done on Beverly Hills and Vanderpump when they've done those crossovers.
Be like the Jetsons meet the Flintstones.
I would love it. Okay, Janet, anything messy you could tell me about the rest of the season before I let you go?
You know, it started messy and it keeps getting messy. I kind of thought, I was like, all right, we got the mess over with this summer. Like, I was like, it started hot and, you know, now we can relax, and there was no relaxing. It's going to get messy. I think you're going to see, you know, we know where Jax and Brittany and Jesse and Michelle end up, but I think you're going to see more of that's going to make sense, and just a lot more of everybody else. You're going to see fights in the relationships. I think people love Nia and Danny. People love Jason and I. Well, maybe Jason more than me right now, but I think you're going to see like all the couples kind of have a moment, and you know, it's what is real life. So I think you'll see kind of little bits and pieces of that. Some friendships come together and some falling apart.
Danny and Nia seem nice.
They're super nice.
I mean, I don't really have much to ask about them because they're kind of doing their own thing, but I like them.
They're super nice, yeah.
And so you can't tell me anything about Zach, the Zach situation? What do you think of the hair?
I think it's wild that I was like, oh, he has really thick, he's got a mop, you know, he's got really thick hair. When I never assumed that it would be as big as it is. Like, people are really.
I know. I saw. The only reason I'm asking about it is because I did see he posted a TikTok, so I felt like,
he's
okay, we can
fun
talk
of himself.
About it, right?
It's funny. There was a time, and I don't know when it was this summer, if there were even a camera on us, but there was a time where I was like, can I just get a little tug of that? Like, and I tugged on his hair a little bit because I was like, are you sure it is? I was like, is it a wig? And it's real. And I would tell you right now if it wasn't.
Yeah, you would tell me. Okay. Janet, I love you. Anything else you want to plug? I know you have a podcast with Jared.
Yeah, it's called This Side of the Hill. It airs on Wednesdays everywhere you digest podcasts.
And there's this whole ecosystem of the podcast too. So I feel like we have to, we listen to them, and then it's like, someone's shady on that one, and then they're shady on this one. And it's like a lot to take in. Yeah.
Kristen this week said on her podcast, she was like, Janet, Michelle, if you're listening to this, and then she gave a whole thing about not icing her out and how it's only going to make her more relevant. And I'm like, of course, if
She's
you
right
say,
about that. She was right.
Janet and Michelle, if you are listening, it's going to get to us. So it got to us. So then I gave her kind of a carrier pigeon message back on our podcast. So
I agreed with Kristen, though. Whenever, I mean, on the shows, just as a viewer, whenever somebody's trying to be iced out, it does kind of not work. Or it works in the other person's favor.
And I don't think, my intention was never to say, nobody invite her anywhere. I was just like, you know what? I need a breather. And she probably needs a breather for me. Like, I can tell she doesn't like me that much right now either.
Janet, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Janet,
me.
everybody find you on social media. What's your handle?
Janet Elizabeth with an X on the end, because some old lady has Janet Elizabeth and won't give me it.
Janet Elizabeth X. You can find me at Danny Pellegrino on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you so much for listening to Everything Iconic. I love you all. We'll be back next week with recaps of Vanderpump Rules and The Valley. Thank you so much.
Woohoo.
Thanks, Janet.
Thanks. This is so fun.